how to manage my time and implement the Hedgeye process. So we kind of got this from two different folks last week, both Robert and Danny, both kind of coming at it but from the same angle, which is really kind of how do I, best leverage the Hedgeye products and kind of manage my time appropriately in order to execute on the process. And at the end of the day, really the process it's intense, right? It takes a lot of dedication. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And, we probably wouldn't have 60/40 portfolios and target date funds and all that kind of stuff. Right. So, you got to be dedicated to the process, dedicated to running through the different, products. Right. So, I think the biggest thing out of the gate is to, first of all, you really got to assess like what works for you. Right. You're certainly thinking about it the right way in terms of like you're here, right? You're participating in the Hedgeye process. But now you got to kind of assess, okay, what, how can I make this work with my, say, work schedule? And I was in your shoes. I was in your shoes before I joined Hedgeye, right? I had a full-time, 50-hour week that I worked as a software sales guy, and I put in probably over 40 plus hours on the Hedgeye process each and every week before I joined the Hedgeye team, right? So now it's like 80, but it's but by the end of the day, again, you got to understand, that's why this whole show is about kind of helping to assess like kind of better understand the process, right? And better incorporate the different tools, because it's a huge piece. You got to make it work for yourself, and you got to understand kind of like, how do I fit everything into my schedule, right? So I know I've kind of said that a couple of times, but it's important. You have to understand what works for you. For me, I'll just kind of give you a rundown as to like what my schedule looked like back in the day. And really the two things that I did every morning was I read the early look and I would write down the risk ranges. So I do that before work, right? If I could, I'd catch the macro show live. But that would often really just kind of depend on my schedule. And what would really happen is I'd watch the macro show likely over lunch, or kind of at night, right? So rather than sitting down and kind of watching some Netflix with the wife, I would go back up to the office and really, crunch out kind of the macro show and review, and review kind of the portfolio and the setup and that kind of thing, right? So, but at the end of the day, those were three products that I consumed every single day, right? So it was the early look, the risk ranges, the daily risk ranges, and the macro show. Those were kind of three things I did every day. Keith often kind of talks about executing sometime around kind of 9:45 to 11 for his schedule, and then again from about 2:45 to 4. I think that's a really, again, like, a lot of folks think about this as you got to be trading all the time, right? Trading. I don't think that's totally necessary, right? I mean, you do have to be conscientious about what's happening out in the market and like kind of bolted to your chair. But at the same time, when I was working, I booked off about 30 minutes kind of to assess the market open and the close. So call it around 10 a.m. and around 3:30 p.m. So that was kind of like windows of trading that I would try to make sure that we're kind of like booked off on my calendar. But if it didn't work one day, I didn't fret over it either, right? So it's it is what it is. But I think there's other ways that you can really incorporate and or execute, and don't be afraid to use limit orders, right? So limit orders at the low end of the risk range is something that's bullish trend. So maybe like an XLP or an XLV. Obviously, at the top end of the risk range for anything that's bearish trend, right? So like an XLK. Right. So use those limit orders to your advantage, right? Where it's working at the right price for where you want it to be, incrementally add to those positions and let it happen while you're out, while you're working, while you're doing your day job. So just wanted to kind of express that, but I don't, I really don't believe that you need to be kind of trading, every minute of the day. And Keith doesn't do that. I see it literally in the office. Like he's dedicated. He's incredibly focused from, as soon as he's done the macro show, goes to his desk, he trades his book, he assesses kind of opportunities, but he's pretty much done by 11. And then he comes back and he does it again around 2:30. And then one of the, comments was about like, I can't trade the RTAs. I'm going to beg to differ there, right? Like even if you can't trade the RTAs, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be looking at them. It's the RTAs are a treasure trove of information to help assess where Keith is seeing opportunities within his signals. It's incredibly important. And so even if you don't execute on those RTAs, having those available to you will help gauge like what is actually happening in the market. Right. So the ratio of longs to shorts, right, can help guide the tilt of the portfolio. And now these coaching notes are invaluable intraday nuggets, right? They can update you within a matter of seconds as to what's transpiring in the markets versus reading some bullshit headlines from like the Wall Street Journal or MarketWatch, CNBC, whatever, right? So go download that app, put on the notifications, and enjoy the updates. It's very simple. You don't have to execute a single one, but just understand that it is a treasure trove of information that gets funneled to you in real time every bloody day, and it's awesome. Lastly, I think the kind of answer the core of the question in terms of, it's kind of like, how do I use ETF Pro, or can I use that to better manage kind of a longer term portfolio? And I think the short answer is yes, right? Keith gets a lot of shit for being a short term trader, but I would extremely disagree with that. I think he's one of the best long term full investing cycle guys I've ever seen. He captures, we've been long the dollar since January 3rd, and we've been short tech and consumer discretionary since February 1st. I mean, how many folks do you know that have been short that for 11 months, right? I mean, come on. We do, so block out some of that noise, right? And dive into some of these products a little bit more, right? There's phenomenal user guides on the website. Hedgeye University is fantastic. I'm here to help, right? So this is kind of what this whole show is about. And make sure that you're executing, right? But you're paying attention, because ETF Pro is going to be lagged. So it's not going to give you the real-time updates you're probably looking for, but it does give you the wider trend ranges, right? So you can set, you get them once a week. So you can set those limit orders, right? You can set them close to the top end of the range for any sells, bottom of the range for any buys, and you can just let those happen, right? And then tweak things as you see every day, or as you kind of at nighttime, as you're looking at the portfolio and looking where price action is going. Build that process up for yourself. But both are really good questions. As I said, it is definitely an intense process. I'm not saying that you have to do 40 hours a week like I did, right? But you have to make time for it though, right? So it's really important.